Hi, my name's Garrett. If I can make amazing sourdough, you can make amazing sourdough. I have absolutely no training and just a little bit of fun experience. This video is for my buddy Guy and anybody else that wants to make amazing sourdough. Enjoy.
Okay, first step, I've got 74 grams of bread flour, 74 grams of room temperature water, and about half of Norman, my sourdough starter. I'm gonna mix these up, cover it with saran wrap, put it in a dark and warmish place. So summertime, side of the sink. Wintertime, like a cold day like today, I might put it somewhere over in here where a little pilot light might keep it a little bit warm, but I certainly don't want it to get overly hot. And it's gonna sit there for 5 to 6 hours. So I do that, and then I'm gonna take about a 4 to 5 hour break and come back and mix up my flour and water. So it will sit for 1 hour before this is done with its 5 to 6 hour rise. So all stirred up, covered in saran wrap, and now I'm gonna place it over here. So this is a little bit warm, but not directly over any flame. And it's gonna sit here for 5 to 6 hours. So it's been 5 hours, and now I've got my mixture of a total of 907 grams of flour, a mixture of bread flour and whole wheat flour. You can even use a little bit of dark rye flour, but a total of 907 grams, and 641 grams of room temperature water. I'm gonna mix these up, cover this with saran wrap, and then I'm actually gonna put it in the oven because it's a little bit warmer in there, and I'm gonna let that autolyse, I think that's how you pronounce it, for 1 hour. And there is my starter. Under the cover is the starter for this loaf. And then there's my starter. It looks like it's getting bubbly now. So this one is gonna go into the refrigerator for next week. And this is going to get added to that in 1 hour once this has had some time to absorb some water. Okay, so the starter has been rising and chewing on itself for about the last 6 hours. The bread flour and water have been resting in a warm place for 1 hour. I've got 18 grams of fine sea salt and 50 grams of room temperature water. I'm gonna combine all of them in this big bowl, give them a good mix so that they're all interspersed. I'm gonna recover this bowl and let it rest for 30 minutes. So the water, salt, and starter are all in there, and I'm just giving them a good squeeze to get it all mixed up. If you wet your hands really wet, you don't have as much stuff sticking to you throughout this whole experience. So mix this up again, then I'll cover it up for half an hour, and we'll do our 3 stretch and folds separated by 30 minutes each. I'll be back when I do one of those. So this has been sitting for 30 minutes, and I'm gonna do the first of 3 stretch and folds. It's been sitting in a place airtight and where it keeps it nice and warm. My hands are a little bit wet, and that helps me because the first stretch and fold is really schloopy. Don't be afraid of it. So stretch and fold, then turn 180 degrees, stretch and fold, turn 90 degrees, stretch and fold, turn 180 degrees, and stretch and fold. It'll get more elasticity and less schloopiness the more times we do the stretch and fold. I'm gonna cover it back up with saran wrap, put the towel back over it, put it where it's nice and warm, and wait another 30 minutes. Okay, so it's been a half an hour, and sitting over, staying warm. You'll be able to see it's not as schloopy and messy this time. So stretch and fold, turn 180, stretch and fold, turn 90, stretch and fold, turn 180. So I'm doing all 4 sides, and I can already tell that it's got greater elasticity, better gluten structure going on now. So I'm gonna cover it, put the cloth over it, keep it warm, and come back in another 30 minutes. Okay, this is the 3rd stretch and fold. So it's been a half hour since the last time. So stretch and fold back on itself, turn 180, stretch. See how much less schloopy it is now, and fold. Starting to get some bubbles here. You can tell that the sourdough is getting active. Stretch and fold, and then one more.
stretch, and fold. Looking good. Nice bubbles there, and definitely getting more elastic. So now I'm going to cover it. It's going to wait for 90 minutes, and then we'll pick up from there. All right, it's the end of the last 90 minutes of our rise, and you can see nice bubbles there. This is a really happy sourdough. It's probably doubled in size, maybe a little less than that, but now it's ready to turn out, divide in half. I'm going to shape it, and then it's going to sit uncovered with a little flour on top for 25 minutes. So, rubber scraper is a great tool to help get it out. Just a lightly floured surface so it doesn't stick too badly. All right, there we are. Now a rough estimate of half. A little more flour on my hands. Let's pull this guy apart. All right, and really no need to weigh these. You kind of get a sense of their size. So I'm just gonna shape this guy, get him nice and round. And I need a little more flour. Pulling a little tension on the top. Now this guy, get him happy and round. All right, I'm gonna dust the tops of these with a little more flour, and I'm gonna let them sit for 25 minutes. Okay, so it's been 25 minutes. They're lightly floured. I also lightly floured these baskets that they're gonna go in. There's a fancy French name for them that I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to. So I break the surface and I turn them over. The first thing I'm going to do is stretch and fold up about 2/3. Then I'm going to stretch and bring it across, stretch and bring it across, stretch and bring it over. And then I give them a nice little pull and drop it in the floured basket. So I'm going to do the same with this guy. Then I'm going to put both of them in plastic bags, make it nice and puffy so that it doesn't rest on the dough, secure with a rubber band, and I'm going to put these in the refrigerator, and we're going to wait about 16 hours to pull them out. I'm going to come back in 15 hours and turn the oven on though. Okay, so I've created a nice dome over the top of both of these guys so that this doesn't rest on the dough when it's in the refrigerator, and they're rubber banded tight so that they're not going to dry out. They go in the refrigerator overnight. See you tomorrow morning. Happy next day. It's 1 hour before baking time. So the lid with the pot is in the oven. We're gonna turn this bad boy up to 500 degrees and let it get toasty for an hour. The dough is still in the refrigerator. Okay, it's next morning. Dough has been in the refrigerator for at least 16 hours. You can actually do it longer than that, but it's been 16 hours, so I'm gonna open this up. Still nice and puffy, so none of the condensation got on my dough. You can take a look. It's almost doubled in size again. You can see some happy bubbles there. And this is parchment paper, and I love it with the little dog-eared handles. So I put that on top, pizza pan over it, flip it over, and it does want to stick, and so I exercise a little bit of patience. Okay, so really sharp knife, and I'm going to score it. You can use a razor, but I actually don't have a baker's razor, and if I sharpen this every time, it works really well. So, the more perpendicular you hold the blade to the bread, the less rise or lip you get on the crust. Some people like to do it like that, so they get a lot of lip. I don't, because usually those lips will burn a little bit more. Then I like to score it around here, because it makes it pretty. And then I top it with a pretty generous amount of kosher salt. because it gives it great flavor. A lot of that's going to come off, but it is amazing. So let's bring this over here. Now, everything's been cooking in the oven, or warming up in the oven at 500. Bring this out, close it, keep the heat in, lid off. Now let's drop this guy in. See where those little handles come in handy? Lid goes back on. Back in the oven. I push it way back so it's nice and hot. Now I'm going to turn this back from 500 to 475 and set the timer for 20 minutes. See you in 20 minutes. Okay, it's been 20 minutes at 475. Now we're just going to take the lid off. Oh, look at that. So now it's going to brown up. Let's push it back in. We're going to adjust the heat now to 450. 30 more minutes and we'll be good to go. Okay, it's been a half an hour. We should be good to go. Oh yes. Oh, it smells magical. All right, let's grab this guy out of here. Pull the parchment out. And there it is, beautiful. The recipe makes 2, and that is gorgeous. So let's just take a look at the underside. Beautifully browned. All right, these are gonna sit for 2 to 3 hours before we slice into them so that we don't ruin the crumb. Okay, it has been cooling for the last 3 hours. And oh, I can hear the crunch. So you need to make sure that you have a good bread knife. And I happen to have a good bread knife because my bread friend Carrie is here and she is going to try this. If you don't have a good bread knife, it's gonna really push down and ruin the crumb. So now we're gonna let Carrie try this. A little softened butter.
And Carrie gave us the bread knife.
Yeah, Carrie gave us a bread knife. That's why I started talking about Carrie and then I forgot about that. We love Carrie. Carrie is friend. Carrie.
Oh my gosh, my favorite. So good.
Crunchy?
Oh, this is a good one. Yeah. It's perfect.
Yay!
Oh my God. So
Enjoy!
good.
Enjoy! Bye, friends.